Hi everyone, Dylan here. Welcome to another episode of my project analysis series, and today we'll be talking about Dunearn House. So Dunearn House preview will be expected on 18th of July, which is on the same date of Lentor Garden Residences booking date. So this period of time, there'll be two launches. During July, there will be Lentor Garden, and following that would be Dunearn House. If you have not seen my Lentor Garden Residences video, you can always refer. I've already uploaded it. Anything, you can WhatsApp me to understand more about Lentor Garden Residences as well. So without further ado, let's go into Dunearn House and understand what are some of the red flags in Dunearn House that most of the buyers have concerns with today. First thing first, we will run through the location to see where is it exactly. If you can see, Dunearn House is over here, and this is 6th Avenue MRT, and it's only 5 minutes walk away. So some of the problems that we see in this location is that there is a lot of smaller freeholds that is more cheaper in terms of the PSF, and later we will dive deep more into the analysis to understand clearly which are the freeholds that are affecting and how it can be managed in this situation. A bit more on the project stuff. Of course, first thing first, we have 380 units and it ranges from 2 to 4 bedroom. Size-wise, in terms of the land, is about 13,500 square meter thereabouts. So now into the main topic for today, the 3 red flags for Dunearn House. Okay, so first thing first is why new launches are in this area are actually struggling to perform. We can see projects like Royal Green, 4th Avenue, they are not strong in terms of their profit, and a lot of other projects there is also not making a lot of money. One thing that we have to know is that why are they not performing as well? Later I will run through more in detail. Second one is that the resale freehold in that area is actually cheaper, and some of the freehold projects there are actually nearer to the MRT as well. And last but not least is also the problem with smaller unit types. What I mean by smaller unit types means, for example, the 2-bedroom and the 3-bedroom, the sizes of this particular unit. And one thing we want to also note that in this certain location, there will be an upcoming Dunearn transformation, which is the whole Turf City area will be transformed, and the whole Turf City will be transformed into more like a estate area. Later I'll cover that as well. With all these red flags that is in the location, what I want to say is that it doesn't mean that Dunearn House is an area that we cannot buy, but we have to understand clearly what are the factors there that is causing this whole area to be in this situation. So before we start the analysis, this is my WhatsApp and this is my Telegram community. Do scan and text me if you have any burning questions about Dunearn House or any previous launches that you are keen to understand more and how to position yourself today as an investor into these projects. So red flag number 1, new launches in this area don't make money. So later I'll use some examples to run through you why this is happening in this specific location. First thing first, so we look at the prices back in 2019 and how is it different from what is happening today. So looking at these two locations, Bukit Timah and Tampines. So why we use Tampines is because there is a recent launch there in Tampines, and later we will show you these two different launches, how they perform as compared to Bukit Timah area. So if you can see back in 2019, right, when 4th Avenue Residences was launched, their prices are around 2,003 PSF and Treasure at Tampines is around 1,003 PSF. So the gap here that we are looking at is 80%. Why 80%? Means to say that if today you go into Treasure at Tampines, you are paying 80% cheaper. Means Bukit Timah costs 80% more to go in at this point of time. So take note of this 80% price gap, because this will be the crucial factor of how we determine a project, whether or not is it safe to enter in this current location. And we look at today's prices, 2026, today's prices, Bukit Timah versus the outskirt market. If we know Pinery Residences was launched recently this year, and the highest PSF that it hit was 2,007 PSF, while the average is 2,500 PSF. And if we look at Dunearn House, which is launched at average 3,000 PSF, this is what we hear say from the market, that it is going to launch around 3,000 PSF. The difference in terms of the pricing is just 18% as compared to Pinery average price. So why last time at Bukit Timah area it doesn't make a lot of profit is because the gap is very wide. And today you can see that the gap is from 18% to 80%, which is a very, very huge gap in terms of the market prices. So the main thing that we want to understand is this, the gap of prices. Why? Because when today you enter at a lower gap, it will be safer in terms of the price going forward. And also one thing to note, if you have realized in the market today, there is a lot of projects in the region closer to town. They are much lower in terms of PSF. For example, if you look at One Marina Garden, they are going at 2008, 2009 PSF. Union Square, they're going at 2006 PSF for a very central area, as compared to places like even Pinery has already hit 2007, Vela Bay has hit already 3003, or even like Chuan Park has already hit 2008, 2009 PSF. So now there's a lot of focus, and I would say there's a lot of advantage going nearer to town because their PSF are very similar to those in the outskirt market. So now let's take a look at another development, which is at Bukit Timah versus RCR. And the project that we're using is Park Esta. This is 2019 price. If you can see, same 4th Avenue Residences was about 2003 PSF, while Park Esta is around 1007, 1008 PSF. And you can see there is also a very big gap of 41% in terms of the pricing. So if Park Esta, and you have seen their profits, actually they are making quite a hefty profit in terms of their sales. And of course, Park Esta is in a better location just beside MRT, but later we'll show you another example that you can be more clear of why this is happening. So if we see another recent launch in District 16, Vela Bay, they sold an average of 2,800 PSF and their highest transacted is 3,003. And if we compare again to Dunearn House at 3,000 PSF, the gap is only at 4%. So end of the day today, I'm not saying that Dunearn House, based on this data, we can buy. But what we want to understand is why that area at that point of time, it didn't profit a lot, is because the gap between the prices are very big. 80%, 41%, and now you're seeing it's only a 18% to 4% difference in terms of prices. So end of the day, what we want to really understand, or the key thing to note, is that these prices has an effect on the property market, and when the gap is thinner, there will be a more advantage in terms of your position as a buyer or investor going into that area. So now we look at another example during the same time frame, 2018, 2019 area, between these two projects, Daintree and Seaside Residences. One thing I want to highlight to you is that look at the purchase price that they are bought into. It is almost the same, all at 1006 PSF. And you can see the profits for Daintree is around 500,000, while Seaside is about 600 to 700,000. Of course, Seaside still make a bit more in terms of the profit, but it's because there's a special attribute, which is the sea view that they're getting. But what I want to say is that when you see the purchase price are very close, in this example, is just a very small percentage of gap, you can see that it is still profiting, and it can go as high as 500,000. But one thing we want to highlight to you in this situation also, you have to understand that where Daintree location is at. Daintree is in District 21, which is closer to the Bukit Batok side. Whereas today, if we look at Dunearn location, is in District 11 and is at the fringe of District 10, which is a very different location as compared to Upper Bukit Timah or Bukit Batok area where Daintree is located. So this is what happened when you see that the price gap is actually very low. There will be a chance that you can still make a hefty profit. And this is the key thing that we want to bring across to you, because when you know how to look at the price gap, you can determine whether that project is it safe to enter at that point of time. Another thing that I want to highlight to you is that if you see Daintree and Seaside Residences, when the gap of prices is so near, they have a strong profit. So today we look at another way from Dunearn House as compared to Vela Bay. When there's a very marginal gap of prices, there is a very high chance that they can also stand to profit going forward. But of course, the most important thing is to understand not only in terms of the prices, but in terms of other different factors like the layout and the demand of buyers, what are they looking at in that area? So now let's come to the next red flag where you can buy a cheaper resale freehold than Dunearn House. I believe this is one of the biggest concerns in buyer's mind, because in that location, you can really see there's a lot of freehold projects that are near the MRT and also much cheaper in PSF. So you'll be thinking to yourself, hey, should I be buying a freehold or the leasehold there? Because the freehold makes more sense, right? So before we continue on the red flag, if you have any questions that you wish to understand more about Dunearn House or any other questions that you are keen to explore, just do scan my WhatsApp and text me directly. I can help you to address all your concerns and how you want to position yourself in today's market. So now let's take a look at the options in Dunearn area. So if today you're buying Dunearn House, which is over here, definitely as a buyer, when you're looking at this area, you can see this is the 6th Avenue MRT. So if today you're looking into Dunearn House, and other buyers are also looking into this area, definitely their top choice is the MRT. So we see, number one, what is the projects that are around this MRT within 1 kilometer. And I filtered below 2005 PSF to show you that there are definitely cheaper options in that location. So there's one common trait in this area. If you can see over here, all the unit size here are below 200 units. Means to say, all the developments there are boutique developments. And this is something that we need to know very clearly because these boutique developments are freehold and they are less than 2005 PSF. If we look at another station that is one station away just from 6th Avenue, which is Tan Kaki MRT, we can see that with the same filter, 2005 and below, in terms of PSF, you can see all the unit size here are also below 200. Means to say that if today you're looking at 6th Avenue or you're looking at Tan Kaki, these two locations surrounding them, the freehold near to MRT within 1 kilometer, are all below 2,500 PSF. So why I want to bring to your attention is because in this location, there are a lot of freehold below 2005 PSF, which is definitely cheaper than a leasehold like Dunearn House at 3,000 PSF. So the main thing we want to understand, this is the criteria first. Now we look at another example, which is a small freehold versus a big leasehold in Bukit Timah area. If we can see, this is one of the projects that I picked out, the Asana freehold TOP 2019. So why I use this project is because this is one of the newest freehold project in the location that is easy to do a better comparison. If you can see that the price that they were bought at, they are averagely at 2004 PSF. And if Dunearn House today launched at 3000 PSF, the gap between these small freehold and big leasehold projects are 27%. So what we want to do is we want to see if another location, does it perform similar to Bukit Timah area. So we use another location, which is Vela Bay area, that the average price that they transacted is 2,886 PSF. And there's another condo that I picked out, which is Baywin Residences, which is a freehold. And you can see that the average PSF is 2,378, meaning to say that this freehold is 21% cheaper than Vela Bay at 2,886 PSF. And you can also see the timing that they were bought was around the same time, which is both in April 2026. So why do we want to show you this is because in different locations, they also perform the same way. Just take example, Tembusu Grand. It's in District 15 and its launch price is around 2003 to 2004. But today they are selling at about 2008 PSF, which is around 4 to 500 in terms of the PSF difference. But at the same period of time, if you see the smaller freeholds in this area, they maybe cost 15 to 20% cheaper, but they are not making a single cent or making very little profits at that certain time. But if you see in the similar location, those smaller freehold projects, they are maybe cost 15 to 20% lower, but they are not making a lot of profits as well. So there's a few locations like this. First one, Dunearn House, that whole area, Dunearn area. Second one that we are looking at is Telok Kurau area, which is near to the District 15 site. And of course, there's another location, for example, Novena, where you see there's a lot of small freehold and big freehold or big leasehold in that location itself. So the key point I want to highlight to you is that today, if you go into a location, then there's a lot of small freehold around. It is normal that it costs cheaper than a big leasehold. This is the norm. So what is not normal is when today you go into a location that a big leasehold costs more than a big freehold. So for example, what you mean by a big freehold? Big freehold, we don't look at it in terms of the size itself. We also look at some other factors. For example, the land size, the development size, the unit size. All these will determine whether is it a big freehold or not. And why these small freehold are much cheaper in the location, we have to understand very clearly because there must be a certain reason why are they priced lower in this location. So now we do a comparison between a big leasehold and a big freehold. We use Seaside Residences versus Amber Park. You can see there is a very big price gap of 30%. What it means to say is that Amber Park is 30% more expensive as compared to Seaside Residences. So even today, if you were to go into Seaside Residences and at the point of time, there are some units in Telok Kurau area that is a freehold project, it can cost about maybe 1,004 PSF, while Seaside Residences is cost at about 1,008 PSF. But if you compare to, for example, Amber Park, that is at around 2004, 2005 PSF, you can see there's a very big price gap of also 30% as well. So the question is now, you can see that most of the time, we always think that a freehold will cost more than a leasehold. But it depends also on the kind of project that you're looking into. So the most important thing is to really understand those freehold that is surrounding you, what are the characteristics they are in. For example, if we look at Dunearn House area, if you compare it to a recent launch in that area, for example, Watten House, they are big freehold land and they are more expensive. A 3-bedroom in Dunearn House can cost you probably around averagely about 5 million, and a 4-bedroom will cost you probably around 6 to 7 million in that location. So if you use that as an example from Dunearn House and comparing to Seaside Residences and Amber Park, you can see there is also a very big gap between Dunearn House versus Dunearn House and Seaside Residences versus Amber Park. So what I want to highlight to you is that today, when you are going into a location that has a bigger freehold, definitely there will be a higher price gap. And in terms of Dunearn location, you are still looking at an advantage because there is Dunearn House that is transacted a much higher price than you. And for example, if you look at Dunearn House, that they are going to price probably around 3 million and below for the bigger unit types. If you compare it to Dunearn House, you can also clearly see there is a very big price gap between these two, freehold versus leasehold. So it doesn't mean that today you are surrounded by lower price freehold properties means that it is a bad thing. End of the day, what you need to understand clearly is that if this freehold beside you, what characteristics are they in and what status they are in, that's why they are commanding at that kind of price range. Okay, so for the last red flag for today, most of the concerns in the market is that smaller unit types don't make money. To be honest, not only buyers are asking this, even agents ourselves are also thinking that the smaller unit types in that location are not profiting. So one thing we want to understand very clearly is smaller unit types really don't make money in the location is because of what reason? So we see a few examples. First one, we look at Royal Green. If we see Royal Green, their average profit is at about 66,000. Take note, one very important thing is the size of the unit of a 2-bedroom, which is 600 plus square feet to about 800 plus square feet. If we see another example, 4th Avenue Residences, their average profit slightly better, around 100,000. If you can see, the size is also around 6 to 700 square feet. So the key thing that we want to note here is the sizes of these two developments in terms of their 2 bedrooms. And now we look at another project, which is Leiden Residence. You can see their average profit is 400 over 1,000, which is a very big jump as compared to the other two projects. But if you see their sizes, is above 1,000 square feet for the 2-bedroom. So does the small unit in that location don't make money? Actually, it's not true. It really depends on the size of the unit itself. But in that location, for example, Dunearn location, what we want to understand is in that location, most of the money comes from the parents that are financing to buy over there. So as this money comes in from these people, most of the time they are looking at bigger unit types. And bigger unit types doesn't mean that you go for the 3 or 4 bedroom. Bigger unit types means to say that, for example, today in this certain location, there is a 2-bed that is maybe say for example 6 to 700 square feet versus another in the same location, a 2-bed that is 1,000 square feet. And this 1,000 square feet, which is maybe a fully usable area, a good size, then these are the advantage that the 2-bed with a bigger size will have more demand going forward in future. So the biggest concern now is that Dunearn House is mostly at a smaller floor plate. Even the 3 beds are even below 1,000 square feet. So if you ask me, if you go into Dunearn House area and most of the floor plate there are lower than 1,000 square feet, it can be a real problem when you want to exit in future. So you have to be very clear what is your objective of this purchase, which later I can share with you more how do you put yourself in this position and analyze what should you be doing if you were to buy into Dunearn House today. So in conclusion, can we buy or cannot buy Dunearn House? So the first thing we want to understand is that in this area, the Turf City area, there is an upcoming transformation, which is going to bring in 15 to about 20,000 private and public housing into this location. So most of the time, it will definitely be more of a public housing, which is the HDB upgraders. So you can see this is one part where your demand comes in. But what we want to understand is that this batch, when will it be ready? If you ask me, this transformation, for it to take place fully, it will take about 30 to 40 years, which is really quite long. But what we want to understand are the buyers that will upgrade from the HDB to come into this location in future. Just for example, if we look at the recent launches, actually the highest percentage of buyers that come in is from District 19. And District 19, like Sengkang and Punggol, these HDBs, some of them are even on a higher price now. So you can see, for example, like River Valley area, Jurong area, or even across Singapore projects, most of the buyers are from D19 and a high percentage of them are from these people. So why they come in? Because these are the young buyers that wants to upgrade, and also this is what we call as the new money, where these young working class adults upgrade from the HDB to come into better locations. So the question is, how long will this take? Honestly, if you ask me, it would take at least 10 to 15 years for even the first batch of HDB buyers to come in. But now the biggest question is, how about Dunearn House? Should we buy or should we not buy? So if you ask me, and today you are going into Dunearn House because you love the location, the price is within your range, and you're not so concerned about looking to sell in a short time frame, and you want to make a little bit of profits out of this location, it is still something that you can consider. But if you're looking at this project, for example, you want to buy and maybe sell in 4 years' time, then it might not be the best move because this is an area that might not mature so soon, and you may not be seeing the kind of profits as compared to other locations that is available in the market today. So with that, I end my video analysis for today for Dunearn House. And if you have any questions, do WhatsApp me, because in these certain locations, there is a lot of red flags that we need to be careful of, and we need to know how do we enter into this particular project. Also, for the next few weeks, I will be filming another few projects, Lucerne Grand and also Thomson Reserve. If you have any interest in this, or if you are going to take part in any ballot and unsure which are the units that you should be looking into, just WhatsApp me. I will help you to clarify which are the better units you can consider in today's market. Bye.